A father was passing by his son's bedroom when he saw an envelope propped up against the pillow addressed Dad. With his worst premonition, he opened the envelope and read these words. Dear Dad, it is with great regret and sorrow I'm writing you this letter. I ran away with my new girlfriend because I wanted to avoid a scene with you and Mom. But you don't understand. I've been finding real passion with Stacy. I know you would not approve of her because of all her piercings and tattoos and tight clothing and the fact that she's 10 years older than me. Truth be told, she's pregnant. Stacy assures me, however, that we'll be happy together. She owns a trailer in the woods and has a stack of firewood that will last the entire winter. Together we dream of having many, many more kids. But don't worry, Dad. I'm 15 years old. I know how to take care of myself. Someday I hope that you can forgive me and you will visit so you can know your grandchildren. Your son, John. P.S. Dad, none of the above is true. I'm over at Tommy's house. I just wanted you to know there are worse things in life than a bad report card. And then the real kicker is the last line. Call me when it's safe to come home. How many of you, it would never be safe to come home after that, okay? If you're a guest or you're joining us online, we're in a series we're calling Talk About It When. And I am so very excited for this series. The hardest thing about this message today is trying to figure out what to leave out because God has just been doing some awesome things. I mentioned this last week, but I want to share it again, that this is a series that God had placed on my heart last August. And I really believe that the preparation for this was awesome. I was excited about that. If you're part of our church last August, obviously God did something different. And that's one of the reasons why when I'm ever preparing messages, I want it to be the Holy Spirit. I don't want it to be me. And so we put it to the side and said, okay, we're going to come back to this later. But it was really the work that I put in on this series, the developing it and the planning of it, that led me to where we are today. And where we're at as a church. So just to kind of set that up for you, I just want to go back and just walk through. And again, if you're new, this will be good information. If you've known this for a while, it's nice to kind of have these refreshers on this. My background growing up is I grew up with my mom my mom did in-home daycare for 35 years in our house. And she had a small Christian daycare. So I think I changed more diapers before I went to high school than probably any kid in my class. So I grew up around kids. It was just part of my life. It was just who I was. I knew when I graduated college that I wanted to work with kids. I didn't know where that was or what that would look like, but God led me to a place called Children's Home Society. And it's a place in Sioux Falls. I actually started volunteering there before I graduated and know that if that was a place that God wanted me to be, I had kind of determined that, and it absolutely was. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's a residential treatment facility for kids with extreme emotional, behavioral, sometimes sexual behaviors that they've had as well. And I got a chance to be there as a counselor for 2 years. I was a unit supervisor for 8 years. It's one of the greatest places I've worked. Still loved it. Probably would still be there to this day, but at the time my boys were growing up. And this job was evenings, it was weekends, it was holidays, and I wanted to spend time with my kids. And I wasn't looking for another job, but in the course of a year, my boys were 8 and 5 at the time. I had 4 different agencies approach me about a job, and I like, okay, God, you might be trying to tell me something. And so I accepted a position with the Sioux Falls School District. And I was a behavior facilitator for the Sioux Falls School District. I was assigned to Lowell Elementary, which is a school in Sioux Falls that's in one of the tougher parts of Sioux Falls. There's 94% free and reduced lunches there. So working a lot with the staff and the kids there, loved it. And oh, by the way, I got my evenings, my weekends, my holidays, and my summers with my kids. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I got to be a dad and still do what I was passionate about. But throughout all of that time, I was going to this place called Celebrate Church. And I was reconnecting with my faith. And obviously my gift is with kids. I have a gift for that. So I started serving in the children's ministry at one of the services. Eventually I started leading one of the services in our kids' ministry. Eventually I started leading multiple services and multiple leaders. Eventually, I got to a place where I was leading a team that we were writing the curriculum for all the elementary services, all our Sioux Falls campuses, all our locations. It got to the point where they came to me and they said, Jeff, you're here like 25 hours a week. We might as well start paying you for what you're doing. We'd like you to come and work full-time ministry as a children's pastor. And I was still kind of on the fence. This was 10 years ago, actually, this year. And so I prayed the prayer that I would caution you to pray. I pray to God, I want you to make it abundantly clear that you want me to leave the Sioux Falls School District and go and work at Celebrate Church. A few weeks later, we had a meeting. All the behavior facilitators from the district were called in. This is kind of unusual. We go in this room and they say, just to let you know, we're changing this position, and so as of next year, your position will be eliminated, so all of you are without work. Now, I started laughing. I don't know if you've ever been in a room with everybody who's getting laid off. Laughter is not the right response to that, okay? But I'm like, okay. So I call my wife and I say, honey, this is what happened. She starts laughing, okay? When your spouse calls you and says, I'm losing my job, laughter is not the normal response. Why do I tell you all that? Because God affirmed in our life that this is time for me to take this step and become a children's pastor at Celebrate Church, and I've loved every minute of it. And as you know, 7 years ago, God called me to leave that position, which I thought I'd be there for the rest of my life, and to move to Yankton and to plant this church. And I say this with a smile, but I'll unpack it a little bit more. In a lot of ways, when I moved to Yankton, I kind of left the ministry, and now I work with adults, okay? And I say that with a smile, but I'm going to unpack that for you. Because see, here's why I tell you this. Out of the hundreds of families that I've worked with, and it's probably even closer to thousands, but I'll just say hundreds because I know that's for sure. There are two irrefutable facts about every single parent I have ever worked with. The first one is they desire a better life for their kids than they had. Every parent has a desire for their kids to have a better life than they did. Even really unhealthy parents. And can I tell you something? I've worked with some really unhealthy parents. I can tell you guys some stories that would just blow your mind. But even when you dig down deep with those people, they really are motivated by the fact that they want to have a better life for their kids. And it's coming out in unhealthy ways. Every parent wants their kid to have a better life. But here's the second thing. Every parent, no matter ones I work with, always feel like they aren't doing enough. They always think, man, I think I'm failing in some ways. Some parents feel like a complete failure, and some parents know that they have failed. But those two things are key to every parent. They either want a better life for their kids than they've had, and they don't feel like they're doing enough. And now that Elaine and I have entered a new season of our life, we are now empty nesters, our boys are all grown, we're realizing, and we found out this a while ago, but parenting doesn't end when your kids move out of the house, does it? It's always the case, and it's always there. And it brings us back to this series. Because as followers of Jesus Christ, if you are a parent, you have a third desire. And that is a desire for your children to love, to serve, and to follow Jesus. And how do we do that? One of the ways we do that is we send them to a Sunday school, right? We want them to come to church, want them to learn about Jesus. Maybe we do devotionals with them. Maybe we even have like a Wednesday night program that we do for the kids. And we think that maybe if we do all these things, they will have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And where I reached a kind of a crisis point in my own life and ministry, given my background, we're seeing the rates of young people leaving the church at an astronomical rate, which made me think, I think there's maybe more to it than this. I wonder if there's something that we're missing, which led me back full circle to my mom and to what she did and how they were ministering to those families and those kids. And it wasn't just to bring them to church on Sunday or Wednesday. That was part of it. But really getting in the lives of the parents and the families and developing those relationships and helping equip them, which led us to the journey that we're on now as a church. So this church is so much more than a series. This is really a vision for where we're going as a church, how we are to use this facility, and the philosophies that we're developing to really reach and impact these kids. So on this journey, the next 5 weeks, I'm going to ask for two things. This has been my prayer for you, and I beg that you would help me out with this. The first one is I'm asking for your patience. And let me unpack this for you. Many of you know Henry Ford, who was the inventor of the assembly line, helped revolutionize the Model T. We drive cars here probably because of Henry Ford and people like him. Henry Ford had a quote that said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses. We don't always see the vision of what's going on. Let me explain what I'm saying. If I were to ask every person in this church, do you think we should have a kids ministry? Everybody would say, yes, we should have a ministry that impacts kids. I'm not interested in building a faster horse. I'm interested in starting something brand new and following God and trusting that Him, we can do more for our kids and for our families. And I ask that you guys would be patient with me as I unpack this. As you guys know, I get a little excited. I talk a little fast. Trust me, I work on it. It might not seem like it, but I know that there's been times where I've said things from the pulpit that I wish I hadn't. And I ask for your patience as we're walking through and explaining it. Don't get too far ahead. Again, we're not trying to build a faster horse. We're trying to do something completely different. And God has used this as, please be patient with me. Here's the second thing I'm asking. As I'm asking for your perspective, let me unpack this for you. If you're in this room right now, and you have kids that are under the age of 18, okay? This series is going to be great for you. I pray that this series will encourage you. I pray that it will equip you. And I pray that it will empower you in your parenting. If you're here today and you're like Elaine and I, and you have kids, but they're grown and they're out of the house, I pray that this series will help you remember those days, being back in the throngs of what was growing up was like. That we would reflect back on what we did and maybe what we didn't do. And that it would renew our faith, not only in our kids, but also in other kids as well. If you're in the room today and you're like, I want to have kids someday, that's a desire that I have, this series is so important for you, that you would listen, that you would learn. I would give so much to go back 20 years, knowing what I know now, and help raise my kids and learn to love parenting. But I want to address the elephant in the room as well. If you're in the room today and you've never had kids, or maybe you never want to have kids, this series is for you too. I pray that you will develop into a support for other families. Maybe a safe person that people can go to just to vent or have some time together. I pray that this might strengthen you. It might even reinforce the fact, thank God that I never had kids, okay? That might be the thing that God leads you to, whatever that is. But I want to say this again. There are kid people and there's not kid people. I think we need to be okay with that. Some people really like and enjoy kids. Some people don't. Okay, let me give you this example. I am not a car person. I'm not. Okay, I have a car. I own one. I own two of them. I drive them. I know how to drive. I know how to put gas and fill the tires. Beyond that, I'm lost. I just need help. I need assistance. So just because you have kids doesn't mean you're a kid person. It doesn't mean that you're not going to fit in our church if you're not a kids person. We need not kids people. But if you're not a kids person, we don't want you near the kids, okay? Right? You make sense? So we're going to walk through what that means. So no matter where you're at, why I'm saying all that is, no matter where you're at, your perspective matters. This is going to be for you. So in your Bibles, if you want to go ahead and turn to Deuteronomy chapter 6. Deuteronomy chapter 6. And while you're going there, I'm going to tell you about a time when a guy came to Jesus. This guy was an expert in the law. And he asked Jesus, what is the most important commandment? Jesus, there's over 600 laws that Moses gave us. What is the one that's the most important? Now, it's important to understand this guy wasn't asking a legitimate question. He was trying to trick Jesus. He was trying to trap Jesus into saying something that they could get him stuck on. Jesus, to answer this question, quotes Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. This is the verse we're going to look at. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. When Jesus said this verse to that Jewish leader, it wasn't like, oh, this is a shocking new revelation. No. This was the prayer that every little Jewish boy and girl would say every single night. This was the prayer that Moses gave in Deuteronomy 6. It's actually called the Shema in Hebrew. And this is this word, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. This, in a sense, was Jesus' clap back to this guy. You're asking me what's the most important law? Okay, Mr. Pharisee, I have the entire Old Testament memorized. You don't know what the most important law is? Let me take you back to Sunday school. You should have already known this. We say it all the time. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. I can't believe you don't know that. So, in the way of the Jewish tradition and with following Jesus, I'd like us to read this verse out loud together. Let's say it together. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Good job. Let's do it one more time. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Which brings us to the next verse. And this next verse is really the key idea for our series. that we're going to be unpacking for the next 4 weeks. Look at verse 6 and 7. These commands I give you today are to be on your hearts. Not that these are just an idea, not just a thought, not just a suggestion. These are to be on your hearts. These commands are to be the most important thing about you. This should be who you are. Look at verse 7. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. That word impress upon your children literally means to pierce your children with this idea. And this is where we get our series name. Talk about it when you sit at home, when you walk on the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Notice it doesn't say just talk to them about it on Sunday morning. It doesn't say just talk to them about it Wednesday night. Do you see the problem? We are to have Jesus. If we are followers of Jesus Christ, it's to be the most important thing of our life. It's supposed to be on our hearts. We are to impress this on our children over and over and over again. Because here's the fact, church, you will impress on kids what's important to you. Whatever is important to you is what you will impress on your kids. If money is what's important to you, that's what you will impress on your kids. If good grades are what's important to you, that's what you'll impress on your kids. If athletics are important to you, that's what you'll impress on your kids. If being a success in business and in life is important to you, that's what you will impress on your kids. If building a life of leisure and recreation and having fun, if that's important to you, that's what you'll impress on your kids. And hear me say this, none of those things are bad. All of those things are okay. But if God is the most important thing in your life, He will be impressed on your kids. And if He's not, they will absolutely know. So, today, if you're here and you have kids under the age of 18, let's ask the question, what are you impressing on your kids? Because every day you're impressing on them. You have an opportunity to do that. Columbia University did a study of 35,000 parent-child relationships. They found some fascinating things, but I just pulled out 2 of them. There's a lot of them, but I'm just going to do these 2. 13% of adolescents who said their parents never smoked had themselves never smoked. Daughters are 4 times as likely to become dependent on nicotine if their mothers were dependent on nicotine. And please understand, I'm not just picking on smoking. They found the same thing with alcohol usage, with money, with relationships, and can I tell you what else happens? God as well. If you are a follower of Jesus Christ, if church is important to you, if you impress on them that Sunday morning matters, that's also going to be a big part of it. And can I just say to all my parents in the room right now, I am so proud of you. You're bringing your kids on Sunday morning and you're impressing on them. This is what matters, is a relationship with Jesus Christ. If your kids are grown, what did you impress on them when they were kids? Look back and reflect on your time as a parent. What did you impact on your kids? Many of you know I am a huge Minnesota Twins fan. I love baseball. I love Minnesota Twins. And one of the things that you know about the Twins is they're not always very good. So there's some frustration that happens with the Minnesota Twins, right? And back before when I would watch the Twins, well, I still get frustrated, right? But I had a little bit of a language problem, and I still remember I was watching the Minnesota Twins, and Caleb, my oldest, was just a little tyke, probably 2 years old. And I still remember this situation very clearly. I was watching the game. It was like the 9th inning. They gave up a go-ahead home run. The other team hit a home run, put them up ahead. And I go, oh, and I said a word. And guess what little Caleb did? He said the same word right back. And I went, can we agree? Our kids are impacted by what we say and what we do. They see that. And looking back on that, what are we impressing on our kids? If someday you want to become a parent, what would you like to impress on your kids? What would you want your kids to be like? Then become that way. Whatever you want your desire for your kids to be that person. Be better at that. Let them fail. Let them learn. Let them grow. If you're here today and you've never had kids or you don't want to have kids, you're still impressing on kids. You're still impacting them. Do you want to be the crabby old person? Okay? Trust me, kids know who they are. Trust me, they know. Do you want to be the crabby old person, or do you want to be like a trusted guide? Do you want to be like a Master Yoda, right? I think sometimes we get this impression that we're supposed to be these wise old people that are like telling the kids what to do. They don't need that. They just need a guide to kind of help them and support them through, right? Being a guide for that. How many of you have ever heard of the show or seen the show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Anybody? Okay, you know what I'm talking about? It's a great show. You know why they pick fifth grade? Because most adults aren't smarter than fifth graders, okay? I'm just being honest with you. It's true. And I'm going to say something. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I'm just being real with you. All of the messages that I prepare at a fifth grade level. Now, some of you are like, well, that's probably why I get it so good. Okay, that might be the case, all right? Now, I'm telling you this for a reason. Let me back up for a second. Do you think there's a significant difference between a fifth grader and a first grader? You better believe there is. There's a significant difference. Do you think there's a significant difference between a first grader and a 4-year-old? You better believe there is. How about a 4-year-old and a little baby? Very much so. There's a big spectrum in there as far as that goes. Why am I telling you all that? As we're developing this, one of the things we're going to do is our birth through 4th grade, that room over there on Sunday morning, that's where they're going to be at. Because we want to teach them at their level. This is not their level, right? This is the adult. Are you with me, church? That's one of the things that we're going to do. It's not we want to separate. No. We want them to learn and understand Jesus at an age-appropriate level and to make that happen. So that's going to be part of it. Here's verse 8. Deuteronomy 6, verse 8. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your forehead. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and your gates. This literally means to write it on the door of their house. There was the Jewish tradition, and maybe you've seen this. Some traditional Jews will still do this. They have a little box that they have strapped to their head. Anybody ever seen that before? Inside of that box, there's a little tiny scroll that has the entire law of Moses written on it, and they wear that on their foreheads. They take this verse so literally. Why is that? They want them to know, this is the most important thing in my life. This is the most important thing in my life. Impress it on them. How many of you have Bible verses hanging up in your house? Anybody? I did. I still do too as well. We want them to see that. But we don't just want to say it. We don't want to preach it to them. We don't want to show them it on Sunday. We want to explain it to them. We want them to live it out. Because again, you will impress on your kids what's most important to you. Is God the most important thing in your life? If it is, that's what will be impressed on them. That's how we're going to do that. We're going to impress on kids that God is the most important thing. So we're going to do something a little different today. And I'm going to do this in a teaching way. And kids in the room, I'm really going to need your guys' help with this one. Because, again, I know I'm a little goofy, all right? And you guys say, like, my preaching style. Just so you know, I developed my preaching style by standing before about 70 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, okay? So if you give me a room of, like, 70 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, I'm great. I love that, okay? But we're going to do something like that. So, kids, I'm going to really need your help with this. We're going to go ahead and put that verse back up on the screen. Deuteronomy 6, 4, and 5, okay? This is called the Shema. We're going to say this verse. We're going to learn it together, and you guys are going to help me teach the adults how to do this right, okay? And we're going to have some actions that go along with this, and adults, you learn the actions too, okay? You ready for this? So the first part is, Hear, O Israel. We're going to put your hands up to your mouth like you're announcing it to everybody. Adults, do this too. Hear, O Israel, okay? Hear, I'll put my mic. You can put both hands up. Hear, O Israel. Ready? Hear, O Israel. That's pretty good. Okay, here's the next one. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. Point to the Lord. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. Good job. Okay, let's put them both together. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You guys are doing great, okay? Here's the next part. You ready for the next part? Love the Lord your God with all your heart. We're going to draw a little heart on us like this. Go like that. Draw a little heart. There you go. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Adults, do it too. Good job. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Then, love the Lord your God with all your soul. We're going to give ourselves like a big hug. Soul. Okay? And then when it comes to strength, this is the fun one. I need to see your muscles. Can you guys show me your muscles? Yeah, show me with your muscles. Okay, so let's put all three of those together. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Ready? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. All right, adults, we're doing this too. Ready? Okay, let's see if we can put all of it together, okay? Ready? It's on the screen. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. That's pretty good. Let's do it one more time. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Good job, church. Give you guys a round of applause. That was awesome. How cute is it going to be when we get a whole bunch of little preschoolers and we get them up here on the stage and they all stand up here and do that? Isn't that going to be cute? Isn't that going to be fun? Now let me push back on that. You know what's going to be better? It's when all the adults in the room stand up and do it with them. Kids are not here for our entertainment value. Now, are they fun and enjoyable to watch? You bet they are, okay? Do we enjoy that? Absolutely. You want to make an impact on these lives? You stand up and you do it too. Can you imagine what that's going to look like when we have a room full of adults and all the kids are on stage and they're going to do that and they're going to do the little motions and stuff like that and we're going to join in and we're going to show that? I'm not interested in making faster horses. I'm interested in changing lives and generations for this community. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. And it's going to take your patience. But what you impress on your kids is what is important to you. Church, I'm going to cast this vision. If you're here today and you still have kids that are under the age of 18, it's not too late. Make God the number one thing in your life. They're going to find it anyway. They're going to press it on them. If your kids are grown like mine, it's not too late. Make God number one in your life. I guarantee you it'll impact your kids. Your adult children will see the difference in your life and see that. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there may be someone in this room today, maybe myself included, you might need to call one of your adult children today and apologize. And just say, listen, I just want you to know I didn't make God number one while you were growing up. And I need to ask for your forgiveness. You know what an impact that's going to make on your kids? If you're here today and someday you want to have kids, can I just encourage you? It's not too late. To which you might say, we haven't even had kids yet. Exactly. You are forming your relationships with your kids today, your future kids today. And if you're in this room and you've never had kids, you don't want to have kids, it's not too late. Make God number one. See, the thing that we need to understand is we all have a legacy that we're leaving behind. Every single one of us, whether you have kids or don't have kids, you have a legacy that you're leaving behind. The gospel of Jesus Christ is one generation away from extinction. And this is why when God taught the Israelites, this is why Jesus said this is the most important thing to impress on your kids. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. Because Israel failed to do that time and time again. And the next generation would be raised up and they would turn away from God. And it would be this back and forth and back and forth. And I tell you what, God is saying the same thing today. That is how we make God number one. How we impress on that generation is how we make God number one in our lives. And right now, I tell you what, we have a lot of people, and I hear people say it all the time, like, we want to make America great again. Can I tell you something? It's not going to happen in the White House. If you're here today and you think that the White House is going to be the answer to that, I have to throw that out. God says it's my house that's going to change our culture, not the White House. And when we stand up and we say, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is number one in my life. I'm going to love the Lord God with all my heart, with all my soul, and all my strength. It will change this church. It will change our community, and it will change our world. And the next generation doesn't need us to preach at them. The next generation needs to see us model that for them. We are leaving a legacy. What legacy do you want to leave? And I'm just going to go ahead and say this too, church. I've been in prayer about this. This last year of my life, in so many ways, has been probably the most difficult year that I've ever had in my entire life. When we planned this series a year ago and put it on hold, I had no clue what God had in store for me for the next 12 months. It's been incredibly stressful. It's been incredibly difficult. But here's the problem, and I hear this a lot. People say, you know, our church has been here 7 years. Why aren't we bigger? And people say, oh, Pastor, all this stuff. You're looking at the reason why our church hasn't grown. Let me explain that to you. For a long time in our church, I was trying to be somebody I'm not. And about 12 months ago, when I was going through this series, God put on my heart and said, Jeff, what did I call you to do? And I'm telling you, what we've seen over the last 12 months, here, numerical growth, the campground, all of that has been a result of three things. I know who I am. I know who I'm not. And I know what God has called me to do. And I'm looking for people who want to understand that and do that too. I know who I am. I know who I'm not. And I know what God has called me to do. I want to leave a legacy. And my parents who are here today, and I asked them to be here. I'm so glad you guys are here today. They have left a legacy in my life. And that's the legacy that I want to leave to my kids. And I want to leave that legacy to every kid in this community. And every family would understand that, Lord our God, the Lord is one. You love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And you let him do the work. It will change your life. That's the legacy I want to leave. That's why it's got nothing to do with a building. It's got nothing to do with a daycare. Can I tell you something, church? Again, we have 8,700 square feet on this main floor. We're focusing on that 5,000 square feet over here and over there to get that done. There's 830 square feet just to my left. And can I tell you, I've got plans for that, okay? And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I want you to be patient. But what I'm saying is this has got nothing to do with the building. It's got everything to do with creating an environment where people can come and they can understand that the Lord their God, the Lord is one. Are you with me, church? We've got another 8,700 square feet right below us that we can do a lot of things with. And above that, there's another 6,000 square feet. God has given us 23,000 square feet in this place that we can establish something that is going to change our community and impact the next generation. That when all of us are dead and gone, because can I tell you something? Our lives are going to end someday. That day is going to come when we're no longer going to be here. What is the legacy that you want to leave for the next generation? I can tell you exactly what it is for me and what I want to give the rest of my life to. What I'm going to give my time, my talents, and my treasure to understanding who I am, who I'm not, what God has called me to do is to build this, to understand where kids can understand the Lord our God, the Lord is one. We're to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our strength. And I'm excited about what God's doing through that. And that's the legacy that I want to live. They're always watching. Kids are always watching us. What are we impressing on them? What are we seeing about that? How are we being authentic in our faith? How can we have disagreements with people and still be able to walk hand in hand with them and say, okay, I messed that up, I blew that, but let's apologize, let's move on and go forward. Do you think that makes an impact on kids? Absolutely it does. How do we want to live this way? And I'm going to tell you, for the next 4 weeks, we're going to unpack some more things. And our little fun thing that we just did, we're going to do more stuff like that. Because I want to help us to understand what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ and how we can have an opportunity here to revolutionize our community and our world. Let's pray. God, I am so very thankful for kids. I thank you that you gave these little human beings to us to be a model of what your love is for us, Jesus. And God, I thank you that I got a chance to serve at Children's Home Society and get a chance to impact so many kids and so many staff there, God. I thank you that I got a chance to work at Lowell and the Falls School District, God. But God, I'm so grateful for those 2 boys that you gave me. And as I look back on my parenting, oh man, there's a lot of times things I wish I would have done differently. Things I wish I would have said better. Words I wish I could take back. But God, every single Sunday, they got to see their mom and dad come and worship you in your house. Not only did worship God, but we showed up not to just take, but we showed up to give, and we showed up to serve, and our kids saw that. And yeah, they heard the Bible stories, and yeah, they learned the song, but they saw that their mom and dad were chasing Jesus Christ and wanting to serve him. And they got to see us sell our house, quit our jobs, move to an entirely different town, and start a church because people matter to Jesus Christ. I am so thankful for the legacy that you have granted me. and for my kids and for all of those. And God, I believe in so many ways you are just getting started in this church. God, you have blessed us with this facility, not for our benefit, but for a way that we can develop something, God, that can impact the next generation and change lives. God, I pray, as I've been praying every day for those 10 families, that they're going to bring their little babies. And I guarantee you there's mamas right now who are pregnant and who are filled with anxiety because they have no idea what they're going to do for daycare. And you already have it taken care of because there's people that are building places and getting them ready for that. And they're going to bring their little babies in here, God, and we're going to care for them and we're going to love on them. But we're going to teach them about Jesus. And we're going to help equip and empower these families to grow for that. And God, as those 10 families, those first 10 families grow up, God, we have a chance to continue to pour into their lives and bring more and more and more. And God, as a team, as a church, we can continue to bless them and honor them and continue to grow and develop ourselves. God, we could make an impact to families that are going to last for generations to come. And God, I'm so incredibly grateful for your love and grace for each one of us. And God, if there's anyone here who's feeling guilt or shame, I pray that in Jesus' name you would remove that. And that we could say, today's the day we're going to start. We're going to start brand new. And we get to model that with our baptisms at 4 o'clock today, God, where we can just say, today's the day I'm going to take a stand and I'm going to make Jesus number one in my life. And I want my kids to know it, and their grandkids and their kids will know. And that one day, Jesus, we're all going to get to heaven, and we're going to be there. And there might be somebody we've never met before will come up to us and say, I'm here today because you were faithful. And you made an impact on so-and-so who impacted me, who now has changed my life. God, I pray that every generation would know there's a God in heaven who loves them. I thank you so much and ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.